mystery theory. It's been a while since my last video, and I have to say that it's not because I didn't plan to come back, but it's been a crazy year full of changes and lots of unexpected things, and I finally find myself still in the middle of all this things happening, but still making time to do this, which I love. So I will have timestamps if you wanna jump around topics that you might be interested in, but don't know who would find anything interesting about an update in life in general, my life in general, but I know some do. So I will put it in the description box so you can pick and choose. Now, I feel like I don't know where the year went. All I see on my FYP page and shorts, and it's about Halloween, about Christmas, and I don't know why, because if there's one thing I love, it's summer where I live, and I find myself, I don't know, wishing or thinking about Halloween and Christmas, and then I catch myself and I'm like, what the heck? What happened? Like, this year has been a blur. It all started with our house. Now, if you've been following me since the beginning, you know we lived in a suburb of Salt Lake City for 20 years, and particularly in our last house for 14. And I will do a story time of why we decided to move, particularly to the middle of nowhere, Oregon. But that'll have to be in another video, or this will be 10 hours long. The thing is, we sold that house, and we moved to the mountains in southwestern Oregon, the coast, and a town that is so tiny that is in the hundreds in population. generator. We lived in a yurt that we purchased and put here in the property. And we also had a travel trailer. So I have to say that, to add to the no amenities, even today in 2025, there is no cell service where we live. And if you're trying to think where this is, let me educate you. If you're not from Oregon, Oregon is a very rural place unless you go to Eugene, Salem, Portland. But the coast itself, it's not made but composed of really small towns. And I think there's only, just so you have an idea, there's only one Walmart in the coast. And in the 350 miles of coast we have, there's only one Walmart. There's no Target. There's no Home Depot or Lowe's. We live in a state, or a part of the state, that has a lot of mom and pop shops. The chainsaw place, we have a little convenience store in town that is open 24 hours, and that's where we get our coffee when we go out of town. Our gas station closes at 9 p.m. and this gas station is 20 plus miles from where we live. So if you are finding yourself with no gas in this area, you may have to do what I had to do once and sleep at the gas station, because I was not smart. I thought that in every gas station in America we would be able to pump our own gas, but no, that's not the case. I am trying to paint a picture, okay? I'm gonna get to what I wanted to share, but let me paint this picture for you. So, after living for 20 plus years in a city that grew exponentially, if you live in Salt Lake City, I feel like Utah in general, I don't know how much it grew in numbers, but the town where we lived, or where we purchased our home in 2006, was a town of 5,000 in population, and by the time we left, it was 25,000. And this is a tiny place that big investors bought pieces of from farms and would just build apartments. By the time we left, there was traffic jams in a tiny, tiny place that I was just done with. But we had all the conveniences of, a gas station a couple blocks away from us. We had, we could go buy groceries at 3 a.m. if we wanted to. And then we moved to this place where, grocery stores stores are not the same ones we used to shop at. They're tiny. And, you kind of know who the owner of the supermarket is. And now you can't pump your own gas, which I'm fine with. I still have people pump my gas. That's the one thing I don't like. But like in the middle of the night, if I'm running out of gas, I love to go and pump my own gas. But we can't have it all. So now you can see the contrast a little bit, because I'm not even, my asthma is acting up, so if my breathing is interesting, it's because I feel like I have a frog in my mouth, well, not in my mouth, in my throat, and I can't swallow. It's like, it's because my airways are inflamed and any air can, basically not much air can go through. See, it's affecting my brain now. So anyway, we moved here and we love it. We loved it since the first day I, stepped in this property. I knew this was gonna be the place. Like, I feel like Brigham Young in Utah, this is it. And I loved it through all the stages that this property has been through. We used the water from the creek to water our gardens. We got animals. We started milking, and we didn't have things set up properly because we didn't have a house, but we made things work for 5 years. I'll come back to that in another video, but fast forward to now. We moved here to this property on May 1st, 2020, and we camped here for 5 years. Along the way, years into it, we got power. Years into it, later, we got water. And I'm not joking, maybe in March of this year, we finally got a septic. And let me tell you something, it was an adventure because, oh my gosh, like, rest in peace, sir. I feel so sorry that you're not among us anymore, but the person that would do the inspections in our county passed away, and they had nobody to replace him. We were waiting for people to come from Portland to do his job, DQ and all the things that was out of whack for the time that we were trying to get it done. It was a process that was so hard because a septic needs to be this much distance away from any body of water, any well, and the well person that installed our well put it in the middle of our property that also has a creek. So staying away from those sources of water was hard, but it was done. Our house was delivered sometime, I believe it was around the 14th or 15th of January of this year. I promise, I just couldn't believe it. Like, I took a video of where the house was gonna go because the idiot in me was thinking, oh my gosh, the property will never look the same. still see why I was thinking that way, but after so much time, we were ready for a house, and it got delivered. But that was only the beginning of a chain of unfortunate events that, to be honest, it only added stress to my life until, I'm gonna say, the end of April. So from January till the end of April, I had a bleeding toilet. It was some kind of rusty water that was coming out of my master bathroom's toilet. When I called, they said it's because you have hard water, and I said, why isn't my other toilet then red? They were like, oops, good question. So it took forever, but they came back and fixed it. Then, this is a part of Oregon where it rains, and when you think it's stopped, it will start again. And I walked in one night after, the contractor was working, and I look at the stove, brand new stove, and it's covered in water. Like, I have videos of me putting towels on it and just bringing it on top of the sink to show these people that something was installed not right. In the beginning, they were just giving me the runaround. It's probably, and they were coming up, and I'm like, listen, I don't know much about houses, but what I do know is you don't need a leak. Not ever, especially not where we live. So, also when the house first came, the front half of the house had no floor. Like, it had plywood. And I thought, well, clearly they're gonna come and, they're gonna install it because we wanted no carpet. So they're probably gonna install it to make everything match the color and everything. A couple of months later, there's a guy that comes to put the door frames and stuff. And he says, why don't you have a floor? And I looked at him and I said, aren't you supposed to know? And he's like, let me call the factory. So he calls, and it was a mistake. So, and nobody knew. Like, this is the most outrageous thing. The lady from the office where we got it from Clayton Homes, she calls me, she said, why didn't you tell me that you didn't have a floor in the first half of the house? And I said, what? I thought you knew this, that somebody was coming to install it. So then she proceeds to call the factory and make an appointment to install my floors. That was the most outrageous thing in time. I think I had, while all this was happening, service again because we don't have for about 20 miles. A little over 20 miles. That I get a call from them, from Clayton Home, saying the guys are looking for your house. And I was like, okay. Our house is not, and without giving too many explanations, it's not on the main road. And to get to it, you just have to follow this super long driveway. And we have a very well marked how, we have a mailbox and it has huge numbers. So, brother, if you don't see that, and my very not easy to miss mailbox. So I tell her I'm gonna turn around, but I am 20 miles away from the house. Can you contact them and tell them to wait for me? She's like, but you don't have cell service over there. And I'm like, they can go to the library, or they can go, there are a couple of places where they can go connect to Wi-Fi. Like, how did they contact her if they don't have cell service? Like, I'm assuming they called her to let her know that they were lost. So before I head home, I call up my neighbor and I tell her, can you go out and try to see if you see a van that says Clayton Homes? She looks everywhere. She's like, they're not here. So I'm thinking they're gonna come out the way that I'm gonna go drive back in. So I'm gonna meet them. The second I drive back, the 20 miles in the mountains, up and down hills and curves and, cliffs and, and I'm doing all this as fast as I can to try to get to these people. I see them driving up my driveway, and I almost lost all my marbles right there and then. So instead of being rude, which I could have been because I was not happy, I gave her directions. I said, you're gonna get to this one spot. You cannot miss it. And then the next driveway, drive back until you see a house. Anyway. So I drive back out to town to get the darn prescriptions. And guess what happened? The pharmacy was closed. Yep. Just my luck. That's not where that story ends, though, because they took 2 days. They were coming from Salem, so they rented a hotel in a nearby town, and they came back for a couple days in the morning and installed the floors. And they had to remove, because they not only not installed my floors, but they put in the baseboards. Like, why in the world would you install baseboards when there's no flooring underneath? Like, you do know that those baseboards are gonna have to come out to install the floors, right? That was the first mistake. But then when these knuckleheads came, they installed the floors. They left the second day a little early. And when I came to look after I came back from work, I could have done a better job myself, and I am horrible at anything building or anything like that. I am not good at. baseboards seemed like they were installed by a 3-year-old, and I started taking pictures. And like, they removed the baseboards, they brought new ones to install, but they chose to reuse the ones that were here. And it had nails everywhere. The caulking was going into the wall. There were smudges everywhere. The corners were cut too short, so you can see that they were not connected with the other piece. And overall, it looked like a crappy job and not like a brand new house in the conditions that we were promised. Now, eventually, I was able to. All of this was happening as we were still living in the travel trailer because the county made us remove the yurt. So at this point, we were inside the trailer. We were looking at the house, dreaming of sleeping in our bedrooms. But, we had furniture being delivered, and I am storing this furniture outside because I have nowhere to put it because I don't have floors. Eventually, I was able to fight them until they sent me a contractor from Medford that did an excellent job. He had to remove everything and do it all over. But he did an excellent job, and I was really happy that he did it because he was very detail oriented, and you can tell that he had experience doing this. So that fixed that problem, but they still weren't working on the outside. When they dig to set up a foundation, they have these mountains of dirt all around the house, and every time we had to walk in, we had to go through this mountains of mud and then take off our shoes, and they weren't putting things back. They had all the utilities, the connection to the well, to the power. They dug trenches, and they kept them open for 6 freaking weeks. And my dog, who at the time was 16 years old, she was falling in the stitches, and it was raining, and I had to rescue her from one of those trenches. So I was afraid that she was very old, and blind and deaf, but she hated at the time being inside. And so I was always afraid I would come back and just find her in one of those trenches. And so I had to build bridges, and like the amount of work I had to put to cover all this people's lack of common sense. Like, who does that? Like, who leaves all that open? And if you're thinking because of inspection happened in a week. So they just didn't want to bring the machines to cover them unless they wanted to do they were ready to do something else with the machines. Anyway, I'm just getting angry thinking about it. But so I had to rescue my cookie girl more than once. And one day I called and said, "Listen, look at my dog." I sent a picture. She keeps falling, and one day it's gonna be a UPS driver, or one day it's gonna be one of my kids coming in the middle of the night from a game, and you're gonna be responsible for it. And in the month of April, and now at the end of March, and nothing's happening. I was gonna have my surgery deal, what they used to call tire tubes, in on my daughter's birthday, actually, her 21st birthday. I'm like, what are the odds? The 20 years prior I was giving birth, and now I'm doing this, But all of that was part to deal with some hormone imbalances that I have, and it was just something I needed to get done. And they promised me I would be inside the house no later than the first week of March, and here we are at the last week of March. I have 2 weeks to have my surgery, and they still not done, and they're telling me I can't move in. At this point, you better believe that all my couches were inside the house. My kitchen, stuff was slowly being moved here. And the problem was that the septic was still not completely installed, but eventually they did. I think it was the first day of April. But as I was going through all that, I remember it was a Friday when I got a call that one of my good friends, I would say one of the most influential women in my life, somebody that not only loved me but loved my kids, loved my family, and helped us through one of the hardest times of our lives, just passed away. And this was April 4th. I remember being at work and I just could not stop crying. She also happened to be my boss for a while. She had recently resigned from her position because she was battling this disease, which wasn't cancer or anything. It's just like, I don't know. I don't know if, that's my business to share, but she was battling this illness that it should have taken years to get her to the point where she was, but it took her literally months. And I remember talking to her and saying, maybe they'll find it, maybe they'll figure it out. This new specialist, this and that. But there was no amount of prayer or doctors or money that could as far as finances and accommodating and just caring, because one of the things that you have to know is that my love language is a combination of acts of service and what is it called? Touch. I don't know what's that called, but like that's me. If I love you, I'll hug you, and you'll know it. There's no way you will not notice it. If I love you, I want to make your life easier, so I want to do whatever it's in my end. This is what my friend did for us at the time. She saw where the problem was, and she found a solution that she could handle. And it wasn't giving away money or anything like that, but she understood what was happening in the period of our lives that we were going through, and she said, I want to help. And she sat down with me, and she sat down with my husband and said, this is what I think we should do. And why? Like, doing this for us was not going to, I just, it was a selfless act, and that was only the beginning of a series of selfless acts. And I was talking to somebody recently, and I was telling her, the one thing I miss about this, because this other person is also what I call my boss, because, they're members of the library board. But I was telling her, the thing I miss about X is, just, or no, I said something too, like, I really miss her being my boss. I think it was the easiest I've ever had it, even though I had the same load at work. She made it into like an enjoyable experience every time I had to show up with my finances report, with my circulation report, with, and so this other board member, she asked me, so what did she do that that made you feel that way? And the only thing that I could think of was she listened. I think that we don't give credit to the act of actively listening to solve a problem instead of answering to what the person is saying. She, my friend and boss at the time, every time I would come up to her and say, we're having a board meeting, and I'm like, this is what I'm struggling with, and I am trying this, and I'm trying that, and she would let me just get it out. Like, she would just allow me to vent and tell her everything, and then she's like, okay, I hear you, and I think I have an idea. And then she would present an idea and say, what do you think? Like, it wasn't like she was fixing the problem. It wasn't like she was, taking care of me. No, she was just actively listening, and from the outside, finding an alternative. And not only that, but she would follow up. She would email me, she would call me, and she would say, do you want me to do this? Do you want me to do that? And, you think that's normal, she was physically unable to do a lot of things. It got to the point where she couldn't even type on her computer, and she typed a 3-page evaluation because nobody else would. So I could have a raise at work, because unless I had that evaluation that was never an official document, I would have to wait until that was done. And with one finger, she typed 3 pages, and not only that, but then brought it and had it approved by the board by evaluating what she did and getting feedback from other people that had the capacity of doing it, physical capacity. But my friend took it upon herself. And when you see somebody that really even ignores her physical issues to do something she said that is important to her, and that something includes you, I just, it's really hard to find bosses that are like that, and it's really hard to find friends like that. And so that was really hard. I don't think I've lost somebody that every time I think about them, I tear up. And every single time I'm prepping for a board meeting, which is happening this week, I, see her signature, or, some kind of policy change or something, and I see her name. It's like, it makes me tear up every single time, and I just never had that experience with a friend, and I guess that's how special she was. But we're still not inside the house. My friend passed, and then I get home. It was a Friday, April 4th, and I see my 16-year-old dog in a spot that she never lay down. And this is a path that goes to the goats, and even though she loved the goats, she was a border collie, and she took it upon herself to keep all those critters safe. Those were her critters, not mine. She would never sit there. She would never lay down there. She wasn't, even though she was 16 and she was slowing down, she would have never chosen to lay down in that spot. So when with tears in my eyes, I'm driving, getting into my driveway, parking, and when I see her, she turns around and she looks at me with the eyes that said, I'm done. I'm done. And I said, oh no, dear God, don't let it be today, because I don't think I can take it. And so I get out of my car, crying hysterically, and I look at her, and she was the one night she wanted to be inside. She would get restless, and sometimes we'd take her inside in the trailer with us when she was acting like a little too slow. And we have coyotes and we have bears and mountain lions, and she was blind, and so we were trying to keep her safe inside, but she hated every minute of it, and was waiting for the morning just to go out and lay down in the sun or hide from the rain under the trailer. Well, I was preparing myself for it, but I still called the emergency vet and talked to somebody there who talked to the vet and said, listen, I think that because of her age, I don't think that is anything but that. Because I was thinking about all this, salmon poisoning and that kind of stuff. Because of his back, her back legs being paralyzed. But no, she said, I don't think that's what it is. Bring her tomorrow to the emergency room if you see that she doesn't improve. And I was looking at, so my youngest comes and he says, Mom, I will take her. And I'll do it. And he knew that I don't think that I could have taken her and have to drive for almost 2 hours to the emergency vet. And I don't think I could have done it. My husband was working out of state. I would have to be the strong person for me, for my kids, for the situation. But at that point I knew she didn't move at all at night. Her blue, kind of blind eye was looking like she wasn't there. Like she looked empty. She looked like she was suffering. And so I remember she didn't make a sound that night. And then the next day, my son and his girlfriend are gonna take her. We're all a mess. Okay, so our eyes are swollen, watering, like there's like this sadness that it is so bad for me health-wise. Sadness will really affect me physically. And so my son said, I'll put her in the car. So I went and sat with her, and I told her, I will see you soon, okay? And I give her a kiss, and I pet her one last time. And I think at that point we all knew that she was gonna have to be put down, that she had something that we didn't think she was going to come out of. And when I'm about to close the door, my son is with me in the front of the car, and she's in the back. We made her like a really comfortable bed in the back of my car, the back seat. And I tell her, I'll see you on the other side, Cookie. And I don't know where she got this little, like she tried to bark at me like she used to do when she was a puppy, when she wanted my attention. And that's when I completely lost it. I knew she knew. And long long story short, she was in kidney failure and kidney and liver failure. And we had to put her down, and she died peacefully in my son's arms. And then he carried her home. And I have to say that when I saw her, I was okay. She looked peaceful, and we said our goodbyes with my kids. And then we put her to rest with my other dog baby in the back. We got a plant, we put it on top, and we just started sharing stories about her. And how hard she was as a puppy, how she turned into the best dog ever, and yeah. But then I had 2 days where I just couldn't get out of bed. I could not. So it was Saturday when we buried her, and then Saturday, Sunday, I couldn't get up from bed. Like, I would go take a shower, eat something, go back to bed, and I remember talking, we're FaceTime with my husband. He's like, you can't do this. And I said, if I don't do it, then it's gonna affect my health, and I can't. I just need to let it out and get over it. And by over it is over my feelings. Anyway, so between my friend passing away and Cookie passing away, I had my surgery in 2 weeks, and I was not ready for it. I was not ready. I ended up, well, you have to understand that my dog, even though, it's such a, interesting comparison with a human, but I was 26 when I got her, and my kids were little, and she's been with us through so much. She was just really part of our family. Anyway, we then come up to my surgery date, and I'm not doing well. I am having all these physical issues, and I don't know if you know anybody like that, but like, I think I guard my heart so much because I know what it does to my physical health. And at that point I thought, oh my god, if surgery doesn't take me down, I don't know, this might. Anyway, went to my surgery, then they kept me for 6 hours because they were behind. They finally take me to surgery, whatever they do, whatever they had to do, and then I had the slowest recovery time in record, I think. It took me a good, for the kind of surgery I had, I should have been those symptoms, and now, thank God, they just went away, and I don't think I need any surgery because I have no more symptoms. But it was so slow. Now, in order to move into my house, I called them what was the 14, 13, 12, the 11th, Friday the 11th, April 11th, I called them and I said, I'm moving in. I'm gonna have surgery. I'm gonna have to be near a bathroom. My house has a septic, has water. I'm paying to keep it warm, so you better believe I'm not gonna go in the trailer. And she said, well, legally I can't say yes to that, but you do whatever you have to do. So we moved in. Finally, brought everything back. Organized things best we could in, my bedroom so I could rest after the surgery, and yeah. Needless to say, that's just some of the things that happened. And, so much stuff had happened at work. I'm dealing with like an extremely hard staff member that drains my brain and my energy and my will of, to keep leaving. It's like she just drains everything out of me. And maybe it's because I'm not meant to be a boss, maybe I'm okay having a boss but not being the boss. But, I've kept trying to do all these things and just continue with work and everything. It's my son getting eyes. He just came back. He's gonna go to sleep. But I don't know about your kids, but my kids need like a gallon of water before they go to bed. Anyway. What was I saying? Oh, yeah, work. Sometimes I question myself, and I even tell this to my board, like, I've never been in charge of, I've never been a boss, I've never been in charge of people. I may not be the person for it, and, they keep encouraging me, and they say that I'm doing a good job, that I'm handling things. That's all you can do. Being a good boss is not about not having any problems. It's about dealing with the problems that come up. My kids are so loud. Anyway. So, I don't know. I feel like this, and then there's a car, my other son's car. Hello. I'm not cutting this out because this is at the end of the video, so you're hopefully asleep. But so what was that? Okay. Hard stuff, remember? I could do an entire video on the things that she does that I find difficult. And I'm saying it like that because I may come and say this to you and you're like, well, that's perfectly normal. I would have done the same thing. And I guess that's my fear, like, oh, is this like common? Is this something employees do? Like, the liberties that she takes, like, the need to boss me around, like, listen, I'm a nice person. I'm so easy to get along with. more serious, maybe more. So, needless to say, I had that one conversation with that staff member, and he completely changed, and he behaves completely different, and I have nothing to say, nothing bad to say about him, because, what was really bothering me stopped, and that's all I want, Can we just all get along? And then there's this other staff member who is I don't want to be mean, and I don't want to say something, but like, I can't put it into words. She just wants to boss me around and leave me a list of things I need to do, and my job is very demanding. I do the work of a CPA, I do the work of a bookkeeper, and I do the work of a library director, all in less than 30 hours a week. So I don't have extra time to look into like random things you just thought in the middle of the night, If it's work related, email it to me and I'll take care of it in my, time at the office. But like, this staff member is emailing me and texting me and calling me on my phone. Listen, I'm an early millennial. You don't call me. I don't like to talk. Unless the office is on fire, you're not safe, and you need me to call 911, or there's an emergency, email me what you want, and I'll see what I can do. Like, there's no need for you to call me on my one day off of the week, where I am running errands in and out of cell service, and your calls are non-stop. So I had to call you back thinking that somebody's dying, But then this last Friday, I lost my shit. Yes, that's all I'm gonna say. And I got back home after running my errands, and I felt the need to explain myself, and I said, fuck no, I'm not going to. I wasn't going to tell her what I was doing and why she shouldn't be doing that, and how we already established what an emergency, so you call me kind of thing is. I have a life outside the library. I have kids. I have a husband. I have a business. I have a home. I have a farm, for goodness sake. I don't have to be at your beck and call unless it's an emergency. She's been at this job for the longest time. She knows exactly how to deal with every single problem. Any troubleshooting she knows how to do, yet she just wants to be on the phone with me. And I'm like, no, I am not working. I am not at the office. I'm going to freaking Costco. Leave me the hell alone. I can't. And the story is way longer. You would not believe the mini heart attacks I had as I was driving back home, and she was calling me non-stop, and she wouldn't reply to me if she was safe or not. I was thinking something happened, something terrible happened. There's no way she called me 6 times, and again, I was in a no service area, so I would pick up the phone and still couldn't hear her. I would love to vent about my things with a staff member. I need to stretch and keep it vague, because there are some things that are very particular. I might give some things away, but let me know if you want me to vent about that. Maybe there's a fine line sometimes when you are in charge of something and everyone thinks that you are your job 24/7, and God knows that I love this community, I love this library, I love my job. But when I am done, I am done. You better believe I am done. Like, I don't want to know about it. I don't want to talk about it. I don't need to anything, because before I leave my last day, of the week that I work, I write a to-do list of what I need to do the second I step in the office on the next Monday. So I don't have to think about what I need to do on Monday throughout the weekend. But I have to say that this little bickering back and forth with the staff member is taking so much energy out of me and so much life out of me. I don't understand why I'm not capable of not giving the power to put me in a terrible mood. Like, this whole situation Friday ruined, the outing with my husband and what we were doing with the kids, because I had to sit down in my work office, home office, because if I went there, I would have not be nice to her, and I still have the ability to know myself enough to say I'm going to walk away from it until I gain the control, or my control back, and then I'll deal with it. And I did that. Then I got here, sat, and wrote an email for about 45 minutes. I was sitting here on my desk doing that. But all that instead of sitting down and watching a movie with my kids, who ended up dispersing and doing their own thing because they could see, they could feel it, that I was just in a terrible mood. Anyway, it's been 1 hour and 13 minutes since I started this video, so I think I'm gonna try to export it and upload it today, which is Monday. So 6:07 a.m. And my son has a weird schedule, so that's why he sleeps whenever he can. I got a request of doing a lot of story times, and I'd be happy to share it as I'm getting all my energy back into making videos. But I think I'm gonna start with that to give me some extra time and still upload while I go back to true crime and my research and stuff. In the meantime, bear with me. And if you just want to listen to my voice to fall asleep, then the story times